Now, there's something I've been wrestling with for like the last year, and it's been this idea of how you become a driven man, right? I made a video recently about how you shouldn't, the motivation comes after the action, right? You shouldn't like worry about feeling motivated before. But I think it's also important to like analyze how people that achieve the things that they do, right? And for me, in this scenario, I picture people like Iman Ghazi, Patrick Bet David, Jose Zuniga, like they exude this aura about them that they're just the person that does that sort of thing, right? Like they're just driven. They do the work. They wake up and they have to get after it. They don't wait to be motivated. Like they're just driven. They have that like deep rooted why, right? And I think if there's one thing that has stood out to me recently, it's the region beta paradox, right? And what is the region beta paradox? If you haven't heard of it, I'm going to explain it to you now. Basically, it's that things need to be bad enough for you to make a change before you actually make a change that's beneficial for you, right? So one of the examples I heard was like someone that lives maybe 1 kilometer away from work, right? They're probably going to walk there. They're willing to walk, right? But say, for example, they change houses and they live 5 kilometers away from work. Then all of a sudden, they're probably willing to get a car, right? And now them getting a car, they're getting there faster traveling those 5 kilometers than they were when they were walking that 1 kilometer. Right? It's like things weren't that bad, but it wasn't bad enough for them to get a car, right? And I think another good example I can give is being like stuck in a bad job, right? If you're stuck in a job where the pay isn't great, but the boss is nice, the pay covers the bills, you don't have to worry about all of that, the hours aren't terrible, but you're not really satisfied in the job, but it's good enough. You're not gonna quit your job, right? You're like, I've got a reason to stay here, like I'm paying the bills, things are fine, right? But say all of a sudden the scenario switched and you've got a boss that makes your life a living hell. He's making you work like extra long hours, and to top things off, like the money that you're having isn't enough. Like inflation has gone up, you're struggling to pay the bills, right? You're not even getting you're not even paying for food like in your fridge or whatever. And one day, right, you've come home after a long day, your boss was pissing you off, he's made your day like a living hell. You're just tired. You just can't wait to get home and just chill, right? And then you find like, okay, the lights are off. You haven't paid the bills yet. You kind of expected that. Then you open the fridge and there's no food in there, right? Like there's literally no food. You don't have money in your bank to go like get anything proper. Like you have to go to sleep on an empty stomach. Then all of a sudden you're like, damn, like, nah, this is it. Like enough is enough. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to do something else. I think that's the region beta paradox in a nutshell. And I can give you another example just to like hit the point home, and it's maybe someone who's in a bad relationship, right? You're in a relationship that you don't really like it. You're not having like the best time, but I'm speaking of this from like the perspective of like maybe a woman, right? And she's in a relationship, she's not really satisfied, but her boyfriend's nice. He's not the worst person in the world. He doesn't abuse her or anything like that. So she'll stay. She doesn't have a reason to leave, right? But then you flip the scenario and she's in a relationship with like this guy and things are bad, like he's abusing her and everything, and it's just like so bad, and one day just gets so terrible, like he hospitalizes her and then is like, nah, okay, this is enough, like I'm gonna leave, it's bad enough for me to leave now. But in the other scenario, she wasn't really satisfied in the relationship, but she had no reason to leave. Things weren't bad enough for her to change. And yeah, I think I've driven the point home. Basically, the region beta paradox, like if you want to become a driven man, and I think the one issue I've had with this realization that I've come to is that you're not really able to do anything with it except like just sit and wait, right? Because the conclusion to this is that you basically need to wait for things in life to get bad enough for you to make a change, right? Like the example I gave to you about like the guy who come back home and there's like nothing in the fridge and they're like, nah, this is enough. I think that's exactly what happened to Hamza. Right, that's what happened to him, and he was like, nah, this is enough. I'm going to start like working hard and everything, right? I'm going to move back home. I'm going to do all of this. The problem with that is that what am I supposed to do? Just wait until things in my life get bad enough? Because there's a lot of people who do that. Like they just keep living life. Like they're trying to change, but it's really difficult. They're not motivated enough to do it. So they just keep going. And for a lot of people, that scenario doesn't ever happen for them. It doesn't ever get bad enough for them to change. Right, and then they just live life, and then a couple months turns to a couple of years, turns to a couple of decades, and then before they know it, they've wasted their life. And that they never had that, or the region beta paradox. They never had like that changing moment. They never had that, and you can't just sit down and wait for it. But I just thought it was like an interesting like thing to tell you. And I think one of the motivations you can have with this is that you don't need to wait for life to get bad enough for you to make a change. In fact, it should be something to push you. Like, I don't want things to get terrible, because it sounds nice. It's like, okay, life got terrible, and then I decided to make a change, and I ended up starting to make a change. But the thing with that is that it's nice as a story, but there are consequences to that. Like, for things to get that bad, like, it's horrible. Like, there's some horrible consequences that you don't get to change back from. And also, you're not gonna. It's not gonna happen for you. Like, for the majority of people, it's not gonna happen, right? So that can be a motivation for you, is that to make sure that things don't get that bad. Like, just start now. Just start now. I think a video that ties in well with this video is the one I made, where it's like the motivation comes after the action, right? So you just do the work, and then the motivation comes afterwards. I would implore you to go watch that video after this one, just to sort of put them together and just figure it out. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to join the Self-Improvement Brotherhood, and until next time, see you boys.